There's always that character in Smash that doesn't quite get the limelight. When they're first introduced, they might have a spike in popularity, but then over time they fall out of favor. For R.O.B, if you look at his success in every single tier list, you wouldn't think anything of this character. It would be easy to just think, oh, 2 for 2 for being a mid-tier character. But no, he would actually rise to the top tier many times, and R.O.B would have the highest heights in the early meta, and then would cool off very hard later on in the meta. And boy, oh boy, would that change. It's pretty interesting how this niche little Nintendo product would end up being a crazy viable character in Smash. But hold that thought. It's important to see how R.O.B was made and how he got to this point. It started with R.O.B being a character in Brawl as a very niche series, similar to Game & Watch, made to represent a peripheral from Nintendo's history. And if you were passing by the characters in Smash, no one would predict that R.O.B, I mean, yes, the character that was in MonteRicard DS to eventually be in Brawl. It was pretty surprising back in the day. R.O.B was first leaked by a Brawl beta tester, and they said that he was in the game, even though people thought that wasn't true, as R.O.B was actually a subspace emissary enemy at the time. But obviously this leak was 100% legit, as R.O.B was a character that was in the game. He has a strong defensive options, projectiles, and moves. He has fast burst options, a great recovery, and large hitboxes. His mobility is alright while being a larger heavyweight character with lots of range. Jab is a 2-hit attack dealing 3% per hit. Forward tilt is a weak move that can be tilted depending on the direction, and up tilt is a launching tool that has decent hitboxes. Down tilt can also be mashed multiple times and it can cause tripping. Yes, that's kind of insane. Dash attack is a pretty basic attack. It deals 5 to 6%. Forward smash can be tilted and its knockback is actually not that good though. Up smash is a strong KO tool, and of course this move can be Dacus in this game. The move is very slow and punishable, but is easily one of the strongest moves that R.O.B has. It can KO around 70%, so it has really good knockback. Down smash is the fastest down smash in the game, but it is really weak and it lacks damage. And neutral air R.O.B does a spin that deals 10%. Forward air is really fast and it's good for starting combos and edge guards. Clearly is one of the best moves for his character. And back air, R.O.B will fire a boost that pushes not just himself forward, but it deals a powerful blast that can also be used as a recovery tool, which is really rare for an aerial. Up air, R.O.B will deal multiple hits, dealing about 20% when connected, and down air, it's slow but powerful and it can meteor smash. But R.O.B was actually pretty fast, as a lot of his moves like forward tilt, forward throw are pretty basic. Back throw quickly swings the opponent backward and can KO at 165%. Up throw is also a KO throw. It's actually even stronger than back throw. KOing more consistently at 165, and down throw is closer to a combo throw. Neutral B is a long range laser that can be directed on where it lands, and this move is actually neat because it can bounce off the stage. However, in order to nerf this move's spammability, it becomes significantly weaker if you keep using it, to the point where nothing will come out. The strongest variant is called Super Robo Beam, but the weakest variant is just being the regular Robo Beam. R.O.B's side special, R.O.B will do a spinning attack that deals multiple hits. This move is also a reflector. However, the hitboxes on these moves vary. It's actually really bad. Stay tuned because you're definitely going to see how this move changes. If you know, you know. Up special has no hitboxes on this move, but it's by far one of the safest recovery tools. However, it does have a crazy amount of mobility. And down special produces a gyro. It's sometimes known as the top. The gyro can be charged before firing, and it can be picked up again after throwing it to the ground. This leads to the move actually being surprisingly good because of Brawl's glide tossing tech. It actually is considered one of the best items for glide tossing in the game due to how much range it truly has and its knockback. Gyro will even deal a slight amount of damage while spinning, leading to the move actually being something that you gotta look out for, as R.O.B and the opponent can obviously interact. Here's R.O.B's taunts. Now, R.O.B was initially seen as a top to high tier character in Brawl's first tier list, being in September 2008. However, R.O.B's weaknesses would begin to be shown, as R.O.B was later seen as a character with too many weaknesses, especially for being a larger heavyweight character, and this would greatly decrease his presence as characters like MonteRicard push R.O.B out of relevance, considering R.O.B hates the MonteRicard matchup, and he would also have one of the largest drop-offs in Brawl's history. So he would go from being a top tier to a mid tier at 18th place. If things ended up better for R.O.B, we'll just have to see. Now in Smash 4, they did buff a lot in between these two games, as most importantly fixing a lot of his KO power. Some of these moves were really bad in Brawl, like up air, and they also made his up air into an actual move now, so he can actually KO with this attack. Yes, multi-hits are really good in this game. And Smash 4 fixing a lot of multi-hit moves obviously made this attack a lot better, as now it's an excellent KO tool, especially at high percents. It's good for cheesing at the top blast zone, as Smash 4 definitely takes advantage of this stuff a lot because of rage and the lower ceilings that are in this engine. Down smash also got a KO buff, as this move needed it desperately. It was really lackluster in Brawl, and now it can actually at least KO this time around. And Rob actually likes Smash 4 Rage because it benefits his survivability and also boosts his KO power. Even Side Special, out of all of his moves in his kit, has been given some thankful KO power buffs, and a lot of his moves are just improved for the better. Like, his mobility has improved significantly, especially in the airs. However, plenty of Rob's strengths in Brawl are no longer as viable. His projectiles have been significantly nerfed and toned down. So this means that neutral B and down special are all around a lot slower and weaker. They removed glide tossing, they removed Dacus, which these were Brawl techs that Rob would have probably enjoyed. He was definitely benefiting from a lot of the item related tech, and this has all been removed. And it's going to hurt Rob's defensive game, as characters are more likely to rush in and avoid his projectiles with ease, which means that he can actually have less options when being taken advantage of because of the weaker defensive options that Rob has. And yes, I know him being a heavyweight is actually great for his long-term survivability, but him being a heavyweight is also just going to make him easy to combo, and many of Rob's attacks are just have slower amounts of frame data, and these things are going to significantly tone down the character. This also applies to his aerials, especially, as many moves in his moveset have increases to their startup and end lag, so it's going to make Rob just more sluggish, especially when he's being comboed in the air. He's not going to have many options for getting out of these things. His lower shore hop hurts him in the air. A lot of his hitboxes are also smaller. His grab box got decreased. And I mean, his grabs are alright, as the balance patches actually gave Rob a new KO confirm, being his beat boop. And yes, if you know what this is, I'm sure saying beat boop just brought you back. It was down throw into up air, so this functions as a low percent KO confirm to one of his most infamous 50-50 KO confirm. However, update 1.0.6 notably decreased the knockback of Rob's up throw, so he no longer can KO roughly at 15 to 20% later previously, as this was one of the strongest up throws in the game, and it's the second strongest throw right after Ness's back throw. Despite this, his up throw remains as a powerful KO option and is one of the best KO throws, especially when used with platforms. Its lower knockback base is also granted it as a combo pool at lower percents, so if you couple that with the better launch angles, Rob has a little bit more of a combo game this time around, especially out of this tool. Also, these moves can combo into up smash and forward air, which additionally can more easily lead into further follow-ups. Up throw and down throw are just way better in this when it comes to his throw follow-ups, as yes, you obviously have the beat boop that is on deck. However, his hitbox sizes were marginally increased, but it was so marginal it didn't really have that much of an effect on him. Sure, his moves are stronger and he has better KO confirms, but forward smash and back air have increased tower spot. It makes it easier for these moves to whiff, harder to land, and many moves have gotten startup and end lag increases like down air, which is also weaker. But in exchange, he actually has a combo tool, and his up special goes less distance, but his slower aerials are going to make his tools in general just less rewarding. So while Rob's buffs were noticed, many people did like his defensive options, but a lot of these things did become a lot weaker, and his bigger character model still makes him an easy target. And it's sad because Rob has a nice niche in this game, especially when Smash 4 first came out. It was really down to a lack of matchup knowledge at the time. There was also no DLC characters at the time that began to severely outclass Rob's. Bayonetta, Cloud, Corrin did not fully get realized, and the lack of DLC fighters like Bayonetta and Cloud, which are also some of Rob's worst matchups in the game ever, they weren't characters at all yet, so he didn't have to worry about that. But Rob is going to hate having to deal with insane combo games, especially from characters that he could manage of them, and they're really good at doing that stuff. So he's going to be juggled easily. In competitive play, Rob paralleled the Brawl version of the character, being seen as a high tier during the early release days of the meta. A death blow to Rob's best days came when they released update 1.0.6, where they nerfed his up throw's KO power and taken away his KO throw. The nerfs to Rob's made him become a mid tier, while at the time he was still having decent placements in tournaments, which explains why Rob was placed at 20th place, and Rob being not only just a lackluster character, but also being a rare character in the meta. So this was a decline in his general popularity, and this resulted to Rob being ranked at 28th place. On the second tier list, DLC characters began to rise, and this also proved that Rob just began to struggle more and more in the meta. There were some decent strides here and there, but R.O.B failed to have the same heights that he had early on in Smash 4, and each consecutive tier list R.O.B would continue to get lower and lower into the mid tier, finally landing at 35th. And many people feel that he was a decent enough character, but not good enough to really compete with Smash 4's DLC heavy endgame, I guess you could say. So ironically, his meta development in Brawl and Smash 4 mirror each other, being seen as a top to high tier character out of the gate and falling down to the mid to low tiers. The gap in the meta led to R.O.B being seen as a character that was never going to be able to reach the top level of any meta long term, always having a quick spike in the beginning to cool off near the end. And gee, I wonder if this is ever going to change. Now, R.O.B was significantly buffed from Smash 4, and they changed many aspects of the character for the better. They really paid attention to his weak points, and they didn't just completely sideline him and ignore his flaws. Again, first and foremost, side special was made into an actual attack. This was easily one of the most forgettable attacks in the entire game. And they made this into a actual KO tool. Side special's glow up is actually insane. It was one of the worst attacks in the game to being an actual crazy move with large hitboxes, less startup and end lag, and yes, it packs a punch. And seriously, when I was first watching R.O.B gameplay in Ultimate, I was really like having a weird moment. I was like, wow, this is possible? They buffed this move that much. It is really weird to me considering how awful it was in the past. So seeing it edge guard people and becoming a deadly combo ender, yeah, that was like, I was freaking out. So he was able to cheese early percentage kills with this move, and it's by far one of the strongest moves in R.O.B's kit. And R.O.B's KO power buffs continue. His forward smash, back air, up tilt has more range considering they re-added a hitbox that was removed that he had in Brawl, and this improves this move's utility. Down smash's angle changes are consistent now, and Robo Beam has increased hitbox sizes. Down special has some new quirks and also is buffed as now R.O.B can actually re-grab the top and shoot it again with less startup compared to throwing it. And you can also jump cancel with down special. Now R.O.B enjoys the mobility buffs across Ultimate's engine, also the more grounded options being faster improved R.O.B's as well, and this means he can actually scrap this time around. Up air's looping hits are more consistent, the increased shield stun in this game has made his down tilt safer, and the really cheesy recovery buff is R.O.B can actually directional air dodge out of his up special, which technically buffs his recovery a lot considering it was already pretty good in Brawl and Smash 4. Now it's even better considering R.O.B can choose which option he lands out of up special and cancel out of the move. Yeah, if you don't think this is like a huge buff, you're going to see it a lot in competitive play. R.O.B's do this all the time, so this was really good for him. R.O.B's grab game has been toned down a lot, while his standing grab range has been improved. His actual grab inputs are less rewarding, his up throw has increased end lag and making his follow-ups harder at low percents, and his down throw now buries, allowing for read follow-ups, but removing any guaranteed setup at low to mid percentages, particularly affecting his beat boop combo. Overall, R.O.B's playstyle remains fundamentally unchanged from Smash 4, but it changes several of his attacks. But R.O.B has received a mix of buffs and nerfs. He's been slightly nerfed overall, like the removal of gyro canceling was definitely significant, as this removed several of his movement-based options and advanced techs that R.O.B was known to perform at the time. R.O.B was actually affected more than most of the characters in the game during Update 3.0.0, which was the universal reduction to shield damage for projectiles, and the next update increased the knockback of the far hit of jab 1, which pulls opponents towards R.O.B, and this intention was to make his jab actually link into its hits better. However, this has the intended consequence of allowing it to combo into his down tilt, which would turn it into a combo tool. This was partially reverted in future updates, making it harder for these loops to be performed, but it's easier than 3.1. But despite being nerfed, R.O.B is still a strong contender in the meta. Ever since the start of the game, R.O.B has been considered a dominating character in Ultimate due to the buffs from previous games, such as possessing a better punish game, better approach options, more versatile projectiles, and gyro and robo beam even being threatening KO tools at higher percentages. This also improved his ability to edgeguard it, leading to many people to consider him to be one of the most effective zoners in the game, as R.O.B saw an immense success in the early meta. Really think he was a popular character. Even after the DLC characters were introduced, this was what really killed R.O.B in Smash 4. It didn't bother him at all in Smash Ultimate. He still remained as a strong character throughout the meta. If anything, he got even better over time as his meta developed even further, and he would be seen as one of the best characters in Smash Ultimate. So really what did it for R.O.B was the fact that the buffs actually were helping the weaknesses of the character in the past. Like for example, making side specials so much better than what it was before. So while some characters tend to get the sidelines when the buffs finally come around or the next game finally releases, but R.O.B actually received a lot of things that helped him for the better, which of course finally reversed the curse in a way of R.O.B always ending up as a top tier early on and then falling off to the mid tier. Now R.O.B actually maintained his peak in the meta and has been able to still be a strong character. All right, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. There's a Patreon down below if you guys want to support the channel. You guys are the best. Instagram down below, Discord down below. Oh yeah, and if you like this video, make sure to subscribe.